Um, Welcome to my channel. It is about 10:14 on January 13th, 10:14 in the morning, evening. And I was just watching videos on YouTube and I thought I'd do an update on how everything's going here in Japan. He came to say hi because I'm eating dinner right now. Uh, it looked a lot nicer when I first started eating it, but I just made myself some eggs. And they have avocado, and I got some Japanese pickles and kimchi and put it in there with avocado and eggs, which have tomatoes, onions, and green peppers. This is the first time I've used my rice cooker in a while, too, so I have it over rice. And yeah, it's actually, I did a lot of cleaning the other day because my heat was off, my water heat was off. That seems a bit strange, but like in America we have water, what is it, like water tanks, kind of like water heater tanks, and it just heats the hot water in a tank and it keeps that water hot, and then whenever you turn on the tap or the shower, the hot water comes out. But here in Japan, they kind of heat it as you use it, so it takes a little while to warm up and then it runs hot and then it'll just continuously heat it. And apparently my water heater is not electric, it uses gas, so that goes into my gas bill. And there's a safety feature that if you're using too much hot water from one source for a while, then it'll turn off the water heater. But it's just because of the gas, because if you're using too much gas, then it'll turn it off because there might be a gas explosion or something like that. So that actually was tripped earlier, and I asked my boss to like call them and stuff to take care of it, and he forgot. And so then I told him that I needed him to get it done because I needed to use the hot water, and he was like, "Oh, okay, alright." And I didn't like want to make it be like, because it's been a while since I first asked you and you forgot to do it. I didn't approach it like that, but he was like, "So again?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it was, yeah." And he was like, "Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, it's not broken, I don't think. Otherwise, God, it's cold and wet. I don't like it." He's like rubbing his stuffed toy against me, and it's got his drool all over it, and it's cold and wet. It's just... So, yeah, they came, and the guy has to come inside the house to check if the hot water is working from like the bathroom and the kitchen faucets. And so I was like, oh, like, oh my gosh, my apartment is so messy. It's so messy. So I had to do like some ninja cleaning, and it's not just like organizing stuff. It's like, it's just mess. Don't you rub that on me. Don't you rub that on me. Just like organizing, not organizing. It's literally trash. Literally just trash everywhere because of the recycling system in Japan. I have bags and bags of plastic bottles that need to be recycled. They need the labels taken off of them. They need, I don't know what to do with the bottle caps because they're hard plastic. I think they just get thrown away. But when you throw something away, you're not throwing it away. You're throwing it away into combustible trash. So you're throwing it away to be burnt. And I'm not sure what to do with the bottle caps. And I have a little trash recycling organizer thing, and I don't know what to do with them. It's probably on there. It's definitely, I mean, it should definitely be on there because plastic bottles are a huge thing, but I honestly don't know what section it's in. I look at it all the time. It's right next to my calendar. It's right next to my sofa. I always look at it, and I know like usually what days to do it and stuff, and I even know what days you like throw shoes away. You can throw them away with your burnable trash, which I just threw some slippers away the other day because the dog chewed on them. He's destroying his little toy. It's this cute little stuffed lion that I got for him, and he's like chewed up. Would you stop while I'm doing this? He's chewed up the ears, and now he's chewing on the foot pads. I don't know why he hasn't gone for the tail yet, but if he does, it'll come right off. So yeah, I like emptied my fridge because I have 2 weeks holiday for New Year's and Christmas. I spent it at home, and we my mom like booked my flight like 6 months in advance, and what ended up happening was it went through the system. The flight like obviously was booked, but I guess they changed basically everything before, like in that time, in that 6 months time. Probably I'd say 3 months before your flight is when most people are booking, and then they can evaluate how many flights they're going to need. They canceled one of my flights and split it into two. Maybe didn't even split it, but they pushed it off. They canceled it, so there were supposed to be like 3 flights, one at 5, one at 7, and one at 9. And they canceled the one at 7 that I had, and they put me on the 9 o'clock flight. So I had to pay $75 extra to go on the 5 o'clock flight because of booking. And then when I went to, let me think, did I don't remember if I had any seat assignments for any of my flights. And I know you always pick out your seat assignment whenever you book your ticket. But for these flights, I think when I went to check in, there was no seat assignment, and I had issues with basically all of my flights. Like the first one that I had from Japan to Atlanta, when I went to check in, I couldn't do it at the kiosk. I couldn't do it online. They weren't able to print my ticket for my second connecting flight to go home because the flight was basically canceled. But I don't remember if I had a seat assignment for that flight. I think I did have a seat assignment, but I don't remember if it was one that I chose. I think it was. The big issue was with my second flight, which I flew with Air Canada because I had booked a flight to come to Japan, but then I canceled it because I got sick. And my mom was like, "Oh, we'll get the refund for it. It'll be fine. Like, you're not gonna lose any money," because I paid for that flight. So I was like, sure, we're gonna get a refund. Sure, I'm gonna get my money back. Sure, right, yeah, right. You just want me to stay at home. You don't want me to go anywhere. But we ended up getting a voucher for like value that had to be used within a year, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I can use that on my flight out to Japan to go back to my job. Which we did. But that flight, when I went to check in, they didn't give me any seat assignments. The first flight to go to Canada, because it's a Canadian flight, first flight was from DC to Canada. You're gonna pull his paw right off. There was no seat assignments, and it was like 20 minutes delayed and stuff. But then when I was in Toronto to fly to Japan, there was no seat assignment. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Like, why didn't I have a seat assignment? Because I'm pretty sure we booked seats when we changed over and everything, and it just doesn't make any sense. They said that people without seat assignments had to wait until the last call, and then they just printed out a new thing and they gave it to me. And I guess what it was it was all the seats that weren't selected or already filled in by people who bought earlier tickets, but it's impossible because I bought my ticket like technically 9 months in advance. It was a credit from a ticket that I bought 9 months in advance that rolled over to a ticket that I later bought 6 months in advance, and then I got stuck with like one of the crappiest seats I've ever had in my life. And it's not like I've flown around a lot, but this is like one of like the worst points of my holiday and traveling and everything basically. Like, I was in a window seat. There were 2 people. It was a 3-person row, so there's 2 people to the aisle, and then behind us there was a bathroom. And I mean, some people don't like being sat near the bathroom. I mean, my mom doesn't like it. In a restaurant, why would you want to sit near the bathroom? Because then you could smell everything and stuff. And that was an issue for me. The wall was freezing, and I've been sat in the window seat before, and the wall wasn't that freezing. It wasn't that cold. Why was it so cold? I don't know. And then the worst part about it, the absolute worst part about it was there was absolutely no recline at all in those seats. No recline, zero recline. So I was like sitting up, and the chairs themselves aren't like straight. They're like curved a little bit so that you can recline like a little bit, and it feels like, I don't know, a lot more or something. So my head was like pushed forward the entire time, and I'm sitting up straight and my head's pushed forward because I can't like lean back against the headrest because the headrest is pushed forward because the seat is curved. You can't lay it back. It's just up the entire time. It was the most uncomfortable seat I've ever sat in, and it was in what are those seats called? Commodity, convenience, cargo, commercial, whatever. They were the cheap seats, right? And so the amount of space for your legs is tiny. And it's not like I can like pull my legs up, which I tried doing that. I had them like stuck out along the wall up towards the person in front of me, and I had like crossed my leg a couple of times and like tucked it around the seat in front of me, and the guy didn't notice in front of me or whatever, and he could recline. And I was looking down the aisle row or whatever, the middle row, which was, there were also restrooms. It was just a row of bathrooms behind us. 1, 2, 3 bathrooms. There's 3 rows, and there are 3 bathrooms behind us. So the middle one, they had reclining room. I don't know why they had reclining room, because the ones that were on the sides of the plane, the rows that were on the side of the plane up against the wall, the one across on the other side, there was no reclining room. I don't know why. How could they possibly sell seats like that? It seems like it should be illegal. Like, I was so upset. I texted my mom and I basically yelled at her. I was like, why is it like this? And she was like, why don't you ask somebody if there's any other seat that you could get in or something like that? And I was like, no, there's not going to be any seat. It's a full flight. The only room that's available is probably in like the next class up. I mean, I can't go into another seat in the next class up, because they're not going to just let me take it just because my seat's broken. The seat is not broken. If my seat was broken, then 5 other people's seats are going to be broken, because that's the way the seats are designed. They're designed for pain and discomfort. And so I just ended up like standing up a lot of the flight. It was a huge plane, and it wasn't like so bad, I guess, because I was able to stand up. I mean, anyone can stand up. It's just a lot of room. But the guy who was on the end of my row, there was like a Canadian French guy, because he was watching stuff in French. Very handsome young man. And then on the end there was a Japanese guy who was I don't know if he was Japanese Canadian or Japanese American or just Japanese or whatever, but he was quiet, didn't talk, had his hood up most of the flight, and just slept curled up in a ball. And he had room on the end of the row. The end of the row is not a bad place to be. That's where I was when I flew back home, in the seat that I picked, because the aisle seat is much better, because you can easily get up if somebody inside needs to get up, and you can easily go to the bathroom, and you can easily do anything you want, and you can stretch into the aisle even though they tell you not to. So every time I had to get up, or the guy next to me had to get up, the guy on the end was sleeping. I don't know, the entire flight, like the entire 13-hour flight. 13 hours. Almost the entire 13 hours. So we would the guy next to me would just push him a little bit, like, hey, wake up. And then he wouldn't wake up, and he would push him, start with the nudging and stuff. And then he would wake up, and then he wouldn't get up. He would just switch his knees over into the aisle. So his knees are forward, and he would just take his legs and switch them over into the aisle. And then we would have to shimmy around him. And you get up so you can go into the aisle, you can go to the bathroom and stuff. I didn't realize what he was doing the first time, and I tripped over his legs and stepped on his foot. Because it was in the aisle in front of the toilet where I was gonna go. That was not a comfortable flight. Not a comfortable flight. I'm probably never gonna fly with Air Canada again, unless it's from Vancouver. Maybe? I don't know. It always seems to me that flying from the West Coast is way more comfortable than flying anywhere near the East Coast. And Toronto is like towards the middle / eastern part of North America. I've flown from the West Coast maybe twice now? Twice. And both times in, like, hardly remarkable. I stopped during the middle of my dinner to talk on this video. So, I'm hungry. She said that she'd been up since 9, and I was like, bitch, why didn't you come downstairs? Why didn't you say anything? And she's like, why didn't you come upstairs? And I was like, why do I have to drag my butt upstairs to do this? And so then she was like, isn't there any place closer than 4 hours away that we can go? And I was like, not any place good. You want to climb some mountains? You want to go hiking for real? You want to go someplace where I actually know where we are and what we're doing? Then it's 4 hours away. And yeah. So suffice to say, we didn't go hiking. She actually hung out with her friends a lot while we were there too, so I was kind of like, hang out with me. And then my sleep schedule was all messed up. I was sleeping during the day, like towards the second week. It started to be that I was sleeping during the day when it's nighttime in Japan, and I was awake at night when it's daytime in Japan. My body was getting ready for going back. But I still had a lot of trouble getting back into the swing. It's the end of the first week since I've been back, and I dropped my dog off in Saitama. I don't know if I mentioned this before. To go home, I left on Christmas Eve, and we crossed the international date line, and it's a 12-hour flight, and I arrived maybe, what time did I arrive? I arrived in Atlanta around 4. I left on Christmas Eve. I left Japan around 5 on Christmas Eve. This is PM. And it was a 12-hour flight. How did that happen? Like, I always, like, I know you lose a day. You spend a day in the air, like a full 12-hour day, in the air when you fly, and you lose the day. So, like, I spent that time. Technically, it should be Christmas when I arrive, but it's still Christmas Eve because of the date line. And then if you fly from, like, America to Japan, what's the word? You lose a day, too. Because you spend an entire day in the sky. And then it's 2 days later when you land. Depending on what time your flight is. Like, if it's super, super early in the morning, like, I left around maybe 9 or 10 to start going to Japan. 11. And then I think I got there at 5, like, the day after next. And then, so yeah. That makes sense, because it's a 12-hour flight, right? What are you doing? Or, well, no, it doesn't make sense, because I left on Saturday in the morning, and then I arrived Sunday afternoon. Does that make any sense? It's a 12-hour flight. How did that happen? It is a 12-hour flight, because it's like, if I leave from Toronto at like 11, and then I arrive the next day at 5 p.m. Is that 24 hours? Because 11 p.m. and then 11 a.m. and then 5 p.m. That's a full day later. Anyway. So I was gonna drive and avoid the toll roads in Japan. He likes to stand on my knee. I was gonna avoid the toll roads in Japan to drop him off at his breeder in Saitama because he agreed to watch him for me. And he has tons of dogs. And he showed me his litter, his newest litter of like 9 puppies who are like 2 months old, and they're so adorable. Their ears were still a little bit floppy, but some of them had started to perk up. And he's got, you know, girl dogs and boy dogs and various breeding programs going on. He had a 4-month-old puppy there, and she was so fluffy and red, and his dogs are so fluffy. They spend most of their time out in outdoor kennels, and it's cold. But these are, I asked him, I was like, aren't they going to be freezing and stuff at night? And he said they're mountain dogs, so, you know, mountains are much colder than they are here, and it doesn't even snow. So, but he exercises them, and he shows them, and I knew they would be in good hands, and he's had dogs for more than 20 years. And he came back, and he was a lot more fit, because he's got a really cushy, apartment life when he's here with me. And he like literally runs him on his bicycle or on his scooter or something. He just like attaches the leash to this long pole, and he has a bunch of dogs like run with him while he rides. So I started doing that with my bike, and it actually works pretty well. But my bike had trouble because the back tire isn't holding any air anymore, so I have to take it to the bike shop tomorrow. I wasn't able to go out tonight. One of my friends invited me to go to all you can drink, and I was like, oh, okay, well, do you know any parking around there? And she's like, are you going to drive? And I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't drive if I'm going to be drinking all you can drink. Like, well, there's no point of paying for all you can drink if you're not going to get drunk. I mean, if you're not going to drink all you can, right? Like, I wasn't in, like, a mood for drinking, though, but I was in a mood to go out because I woke up kind of late today. But yeah, you shouldn't drink and drive. And she's like, well, you know, you can call somebody and they'll drive your car for you. I was like, that sounds really good, but also expensive because I'm supposed to pay for parking, and then all you can drink, and then I'm going to get food because I'm hungry, and then I'm going to pay for somebody to drive me home. That sounds like a good $60 right there, at least. I'm saying definitely 50, probably at least 60, more likely 70 or 80, because it's like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. All up in there, I imagine. And I'm just not trying to do that because next week I'm going on my ski trip. The English Teachers Association here has a ski trip that they do every year, and actually I found out they do it twice a year, but the first one is the real rager. They have people from all the other prefectures go, and it's at this kind of like old ski lodge. Everybody stays the night, and they have like an all-you-can-drink, all-you-can-eat kind of like party on Saturday night, and there's lots of skiing and snowboarding and lessons, and I haven't been skiing since I was an elementary school student, so it'll be interesting to see how weak I am. I know I'm going to be weak. I can just imagine it, because it was so easy when I was a kid, because I was just a fit little kid with like no fat or anything. But I'm sure it's going to use muscles that I haven't used in a long time, and I'm just going to be, like, in pain, and I'm probably going to fall, and it's just, like, how I imagine roller skating was when I did it again. I did it, how many years ago? 2 years ago now? 1 or 2 years ago? For, like, a summer camp thing, and I was like, woohoo, I'm so good at this, now I'm good, and then I fell, and I hurt my wrist. I fell, and I was wearing a skirt, and I was like, I'm such an idiot, why did I wear a skirt, I look so stupid, I can't even skate. And there were some really good skaters at that rink, too. Oh, yeah, sigh out the embarrassment. But anyway, I dropped him off. Well, I was going to take the toll roads to go up to Saitama. No, I was going to avoid the toll roads. It's like $30 to take the toll roads from here to Tokyo/Saitama. And I was like, I'm not paying $30 to take what's basically the interstate, which is basically free in America. Who would pay $30 to drive for 2 hours on the interstate? That's dumb. So you can take local roads, and they actually go through the mountains. And there's some pretty amazing architecture up there. Yeah, what are those things called? Like city planners, like the interior architects or something like that. People who plan roads and bridges. They had a really fun time on this like small, basically like a state highway kind of like thing going through the mountains in this Yamanashi region, which is also Kai. So the Kai Mountains, which are pretty famous. Yeah, there were some really great things. There was a beautiful view of Fuji that kept like peeking in and out of like the mountaintops, and some really amazing bridges that just like swooped around and stuff. And there were even these guys who were like driving. It was Sunday, Christmas Eve, and early in the morning, and they were driving these like souped up old drag racers, like bright yellow and bright red and like sleek black, and they had like these big wheels that were popped out and like a triangle shaped car. They look like little like when you make them in the Boy Scouts, little like wooden car things that like go down the hill and you have to race them and stuff. But they were real, and the road just kept like going back and forth like solemnly zigzagging and stuff, and it was like pretty cool. And I felt like kind of stupid in like my old car. I just bought a car, and it's an old kind of beat up car and stuff, but I mean, I was just trying to get from point A to point B. So it's good for that. I guess it's not gonna like break down on me, hopefully. So yeah, they got stuck behind me at one point, but then the road opened up and they were able to get around me, which was okay. But anyway, I was in the mountains, and I had watched because I knew I wanted to buy gas before I left, and I passed like one gas station in my town of Kofu, my city, and it was closed, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll just go to the next one, right? But all of them were closed, and then the price started going up and up and up, and I was just like, I'm just gonna wait. And then before I knew it, I was in the mountains, and there was nothing. There were no businesses, there were no houses, there was nothing. It was just road and mountains, and I was like, oh fuck. And then my gas gauge was getting really, really low. I was really, really worried. And we passed a gas station. I passed the gas station, and it was closed, and I was just like, oh fuck, where am I? I need to get gas. I need to get gas now. And I think I took a 1 hour long detour going towards the largest city that I knew was in that area, Otsuki, which is like, I don't know how many cities it is away from my city. It's like an hour's drive on the toll road, on the interstate, basically. And I passed maybe 10 gas stations. Even there was one that Google Maps said existed, and it was no longer there. It did not exist at all anymore. It was completely gone. I passed maybe 10 gas. Funny, relatable, American. And we started at the same time. So he's kind of been like my companion. We're buddies, but we're not like connected on social media at all, which is a bit weird in this day and age. He's not friends on Facebook. I don't think he's on Instagram. I don't know if he does Snapchat. I mean, I did try it for a bit, but I didn't really connect with it. I'm not on Twitter. I don't do that. Excuse you. I do not. So once he leaves, I'm not gonna have like any connection to him, and I'm kind of okay with that, because he just like, he likes to blame other people for his problems instead of accepting responsibility for them. And he makes a victim out of himself. I don't know. Anyway, he's leaving, and I was talking to him, and I was like, here's your stuff, and he was like, well, I was gonna leave it with my friend, but she lives on a tiny island off the main island, and it'll be like expensive to send it there, and to bring it back. And I was like, well, why don't you have like a storage service or something? And he was like, I don't know. He just like had like no idea what he was doing. And we talked to our boss, and he was like, he wants to leave like 3 days into, stop it. He wants to leave like 3 days into February, and like they're coming by to check out his apartment on the 30th. And when they come by to check out his apartment, it's got to be empty of all of his belongings so they can check the walls and the doors and all of the stuff that's just the apartment, not his shit. So yeah, I don't know, it just seems like he doesn't understand what's going on, like that it's no one's responsibility but his to make sure that his stuff has a place to stay, or that he has a place to stay, or any of that. Like, the apartment is, I mean, the only reason anyone's messing with anything to do with the apartment is because our boss co-signed for him. So he's on the hook for making sure that stuff is okay with that. But after that, I mean, he's gonna pay you and you can just fuck off, basically. Like, just leave. Just do whatever the fuck you want, right? He's not even gonna get up on the wall. You know what the other day he was saying was like, this place has been in business like 20 years. Can you see there's like 25 plaques up there? And they're like certificates of people that have been certified. And I was like, okay, so, and he's like, that's less than one person a year. Or that's about one person a year. That's bad. And I was like, you know, I knew that. In my head, I knew that when I was looking for a job. You don't want to go to a place that like cycles people out every year. But actually, I'm pretty sure this place has been in business more than 20 years. More than 20 years. Like, since, what? The early 90s? 93? 92? 92, I think. And I'm 25. So, I don't know. But they've always had, like, more, I mean, they've had at least 2 people at a time. So if one person leaves a year and then you get a new person because one person decides to leave. Because the other thing is that people don't like to stay in places very long. The people that are currently working here, one of them, he's married, he has 3 children, and he's been working there for about, I don't know, 10 years, 9 years, 8 years, something like that. The other guy, he's been there for 2 or 3 years. And then the last girl that I replaced, she's still here in Japan. She's just at a different job that has better hours and pay and stuff, because, I mean, it's not that great a job as far as, like, English teaching goes. What are you doing? Give it to me. Give me it. Go on, get it. You're not gonna get it? Okay. So she was able to find a better paying job for her. And, I don't know, the other guy, the older guy, has been there for so long, he's probably going to take over when the boss decides to retire, because he's about 60-something years old, and he's got, like, a elementary school age daughter. I don't know, he might be in it for another 10 years, his kid might be in, like, high school and going off to college and stuff. It's decent money for him. It's decent money for me, too, honestly, like, as far as hours go and stuff. The only thing is, I feel like I'd be able to, like, better utilize my time if I was working in the States, and, I don't know, I could date and stuff, I don't know. It's just weird to, like, what are you doing? It's just weird to, like, not be in, like, the normal time schedule of, like, other people who are working. Like, in the mornings I have off and I basically sleep, and then in the evenings I have work, because everybody else is off their work and school and stuff, and they're able to come in for lessons. So I work really late, I wake up late, and I don't see much of other stuff except for if I go out on the weekends or if I go out in the mornings, and I'm not for that. It's a hard schedule to keep. And it can be a bit isolating. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so he's leaving, and I put up a posting on my Facebook asking if anybody wanted to come do this job, because people are always like, "Oh, you're working in Japan. That's so cool. Like, I wish I could work in Japan. I wish I could live in Japan." Well, yeah, you can. You can live in Japan and you can make decent money. And I put away like $500 a month usually to pay for like my credit card bills, but also for savings and stuff. I did skip for a while. I haven't done it since August, and I've been kind of like paying my credit card payments off of that since August. And I need to like put some more money in there. Would you stop it? Because I had an unexpected student loans payment. Because I didn't recertify my loans payment.